Hi, welcome to Camp Kuriakis. My name is Eleanor, and I'd like to welcome you to a very special session of Buncraft Friday. So, over the last little while, we have been painting. We did our clouds, and then a couple weeks ago, we did our mountains. And now we're going to continue on the foreground of our image. What I'd like to start on today is we will put some mid-ground stuff in along here. So probably just a few trees and stuff like that. And those are kind of necessary for the main focus of today, which is going to be water. And that'll be across the front. It'll be kind of like a mountain lake type thing. So let's get started. So to start, I just have a little flat brush here. And I want to smooth out this area here, and we're going to have it transition into a tree line. So for this, I'm going to take some blue, and I'm going to take some green too. This is very vibrant green, so we're going to try and tone it down a bit. Now, I'm just mixing this up, but I don't want too much green at the moment because that will make... I'm just going to add a bit of black in there. Okay, this is a very deep color, so what I'm going to do is I've got it pretty watered down. I'm just going to start along here. I'm just going to kind of blur it in. It's not very clear what... It's kind of a base color. So we're just going to put this down towards the front, and then we'll come back. Alright, now as I'm moving up, I'm deciding that this color that I'm making here, this is going to be a really nice color for a base coat of water. So I'm going to start filling it in on this side, all across the bottom here. And I'm just making sure that it's a nice even coat. And as I go into water, it's very important to try and keep the brush as level as possible, because we want the water to be smooth back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. We're not looking for kind of dabby and uneven, kind of like up here, but up here is fine because this is kind of when we're molding into the water. Alright, so I've done a basic even spread here, and we're going to move on to putting some greenery in here. So to do this, I'm taking some green, small hint of yellow, change the shade of green. So I'm just going to collect it at the top here. I'm just grabbing a small amount of that green. With this, I'm going to start moving in on the mountains. So maybe starting about here. And I'm just kind of dabbing this to give the paint a bit of texture as I go. All I'm doing right now is I'm trying to put some layers in. So back here it might be a bit darker because it's further away. And as I go, I always put the tip of my brush up and I'm making it uneven. The tops of the trees are barely visible there. So I'm trying to make layers as I go. So there's layers to my painting. I have some dark in here, and across the front I'm kind of going a little bit darker across the bottom, but I don't want to make it too even, so it might go up more, and I'm just putting some really dark paint in here. We're just going to add some lighter stuff here. So what I've done is I've added a lot of yellow now. So now it's much paler. And I'm just going to kind of go along the front ones. And I'm just kind of zigzagging up and down. And so to do this, I have made some paler green to kind of accent grass. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop some lines in here Alright, I just let this dry a little bit, and I'm just going to go over this again. So I just chose a point, and I want a nice pale green line because I'm putting some grass in. And we will build that up a little bit. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of white, and I'm just going to go along the bottom here. Oof, that's a lot. And I'm just going to make little score marks just along the bottom. Very slight. And again, across the back here too. Just very slight. Not the whole way. It's kind of just in the background. So I have some little shores here. And now I'm going to move into the water. Now, with water, I want a blue with everything that I paint. So what I'm doing is I've got this very watered down bluish white paint, and this is going to go over top of everything else that I paint. So I'm taking a little bit of green, and I want to reflect the green that I have put down. So this side will reflect, but since this side is more in the distance, it will not very clearly reflect. So I'm just gonna kind of put a bit of a mirror on what this would look like. It would be about there. Now I'm gonna take that watered down blue that I used, and I'm gonna go over top of it. And we want it to really just kind of blend in. So the further in, the less clear, but the further out, because that's where we're getting a glassy water effect. So we want the distinctive line, but it'll kind of fade as we go in, especially because we have a shoreline here. So that's the first little bit of our reflection. Now, we have some dark and we have some mountains here. So that's what we're going to put in the front. So I'm going to get some dark green. And I'm just going to put a bit of a coat of dark green across through here. I'm not going all the way. It's not very distinctive. It's kind of along here like this. And again, I'm always moving my brush horizontally. So there's some darker layers in there. Now let's put some lighter layers in here too. I'm just gonna add some yellow to my grass. That's better. And there's probably some indistinct bushes in there and lots of little undergrowth. And now that I've done that, I'm going to reflect it in the water again. So again, it's more further on the outside than on the inside. So there'll be a distinctive line about here. Just like that. It's that easy. And it should probably have some paper in here. Now for the mountain reflections. I've got a rough idea of where the light is going to be and where the dark is going to be. So I'm going to start by emphasizing on the light stuff. So there's some lighter stuff here. And again, a little there. And it's not very distinct. So if it's a rough estimate on where things are, here goes to about there. And I'm just making little dollops because it's not super distinctive. What's there? And they fade out. Now I'm gonna get some darker gray in there. And I'm gonna complement the lighter areas with darker. And again, it's very indistinct, so I'm just randomly tapping the water. So we kind of have some reflections there. Now the bottom of the water is reflecting the sky, so I'm just going to kind of put some pale blue in here too, just in between. So what I'm going to do is, again, with the pale blue that I use for the sky, I'm just going to add a lot of water. Here's the blue that I used for the sky, and I've added a lot of water, so it's super watery now. Just a very, very little bit. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to slowly start putting it in closer. It's closer together near the shore because the shore is less distinct. So I just flip bits of this super watery blue. The trick is to make sure that it doesn't start dripping on your painting. And again, around this shore, this one I'm going to use some thicker blue paint, a little less watery, because it's more distinct, it's closer to us, so it's clearer. So just little bits like this. And I'm just going to add some white in there too. And it's very bluish white. A good part of this water is blue because of the reflection of the sky. And when I'm making water points, I like my brush to be as flat on the tip as possible so that I can make longer strokes that are thinner. And as I go deeper in here to make my other strokes, I want it to be thin and straight edge on the brush so that it can get all of the little bits. And the further away it goes, the smaller they get and the closer together they get. And the further to the foreground it gets, the bigger and more distinct they get. And usually in water there's little patches where the sun catches a little bit more than others, so you can have a little spot here that's got less reflection than somewhere else. So there you have it. There's some water and it's reflecting our mountains. We will go over what it looks like to have some closer up trees into our foreground so that we can give some more depth to our painting. If you would like to email the camp with some of your own work as you've painted along with me, please send it, or any of the crafts that you have done. Remember, here at Kuriakis, we're set apart but still together. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Thanks be to God. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.